Greetings and welcome to Criminal Liability of AI Systems and Outer Circles. Before we get into it, just to remind everyone this is strictly for the educational entertainment purposes of this YouTube channel broadcast, not to be used, misconstrued, or abused for anything legal, lawful, public, private, personal, financial, business, tax, or otherwise, so please don't do this at home. That said, let's get started. So we're going to be looking at criminal liability of AI systems and outer circles and some models of how they could be found liable and to which that would fit. What happened there? There we go. All right, let's get started here. The core premise is that criminal law was originally designed by humans and for humans. However, as technology has developed, criminal offenses are committed not only by humans. In the 21st century, criminal law must supply adequate solutions for the commission of criminal offenses through AI systems. So let's look at this historical context. The major development in attributing liability to non-human actors began in the 17th century with corporate liability. So here's our historical context to this premise. The modern challenge is that AI systems can now independently make decisions and commit acts that, if done by humans, would constitute criminal offenses. So even corporate liability involved boards of directors, etc. So it brings us to these three fundamental models. There's a framework for addressing AI criminal liability within existing law. There's one model here. It's called perpetration by another. AI as an innocent agent. Now, we went over agency extensively here on this channel, so it's worthy of taking into account that perspective as well. But the AI as an innocent agent acting independently but in the interest of the principal, right? Liability falls on the programmer or user, would that be the principal, who directed the system instrumentally. So now we get a little bit of agency law here with this perpetration by another. Next we have the natural probable consequence. No planned offense, but the AI commits one. Liability is based on foreseeability and negligence of the programmer or user. So who's controlling the so-called agent? But then there's direct liability. The AI system itself satisfies both external and internal elements of a criminal offense and is held directly liable. Now, how can the AI system be held criminally liable? So this third model here indeed raises some questions. And before we go on, just to remind everyone that we do have the talking chat enabled, so if you type something into the chat,
the prompt says, hit the like.
Yes, indeed, and it should read it back, but it should bring it all the way onto the screen. There we go. And then we can address any questions, comments, or clarifications, anything else to add in to make it more interactive. And at the end, we will have a special treat, so definitely stick around for the end. And at the very end, if you really stay to the end, we might have something that you've never seen before or could even imagine that falls right into what we're talking about here on this topic. So definitely stay tuned for that. Let's move along here. So we're on section 1 here, model 1, the perpetration by another liability model. The AI system is treated as an innocent agent, a sophisticated instrument. Now, is this really an alter ego or an agent? Nevertheless, a sophisticated instrument, never human. Criminal liability passes to the human who directed its use. So yes, indeed. Somewhere between an agent and a alter ego here as a tool or instrument, right, of the principle. All right. Let's go here. What's going on? The innocent agent concept. Here's a core principle. When an offense is committed by an innocent agent, now this is in the real context, such as a child, a mentally incompetent person, or one who lacks criminal intent, the directing person bears full criminal liability as a perpetrator by another. So the directing person, if you tell the child to go do this, or a mentally incompetent person, that's the core principle. The intermediary is regarded as a mere instrument. The originating actor is the real perpetrator as a principle of the first degree. Now, indeed, we're looking at this from a perspective of international law and not strictly from American jurisprudence points of view. Therefore, we can interject a little bit there, and feel free to pipe up in the chat when you notice any of these kind of discrepancies here. Nonetheless, you see here where the elements of agency apply directly, and where do we draw the line between agency and alter ego here, and seeing who's really liable and what's an instrument. And let's move along here. The AI system analogies. We have a screwdriver. There's no decision capacity. It's strictly a tool with no decision capacity. We have a trained animal. It can execute orders like a dog. Or the AI systems that can execute complex orders. Again, using things like even natural language processing. Now there's two possible perpetrators by another. There's one, the programmer. It designs the AI software specifically to commit offenses through the AI system. Here's an example, is that the programmer designs robot software to burn down a factory at night while no one is present. The robot commits arson, but the programmer is legally considered the perpetrator. But then there's the user. He did not program the software, but uses the AI system, including its software, for their own benefit. Here's an example. A user purchases a servant robot and orders it to assault a trespasser. The robot commits the assault, but the user is the legal perpetrator, no different from ordering a dog to attack. So we see these two different levels here of perpetrator by another. We still haven't gotten to that third complex model yet. Let's move along here. We're still on the first model. So with model one, we have suitability and limitations. It's suitable when the usage of an AI system to commit an offense without leveraging its advanced capabilities. So this makes it very clear that it's like a dog attacking. It's something where you can give it instructions, it can follow basic instructions, but it's not capable of making advanced decisions. Then there's usage of an older AI version lacking modern advanced capabilities, and instrumental usage where the programmer or user directs the action. So it's something of it's not an intended use, and the user misuses it for an unintended purpose, and that's when this model is suitable. Now, it's not suitable, the first model we're speaking of here, when the AI system decided to commit an offense based on its own acquired experience or knowledge. Acquired experience or knowledge. So as the AI is updated, right, updates its own knowledge, even software update. Then the software was not designed to commit the offense, but the AI system committed it anyways. So was it intentionally not designed to allow it to happen? So these get to be very hard to prove in a legal context. So you can see why this first model is not suitable when you're talking about these kinds of limitations here. And again, let's see where to go here. That's called the perpetration by another liability model. Now we're on to number two, which is the natural probable consequence liability model. This here is where we have something like the programmer or user is deeply involved in the AI system's daily activities, but did not plan any offense. So there's some duty here, right, or of care. The AI system independently commits an offense during its operations. So let's see here where the duty of care fits in to this model. We have the scenarios here, the unplanned offenses by AI. Oh boy, this gets scary. The automatic pilot scenario. So for those of you that are just joining in, this is going to get very frightening too, because we're going to get in some actual, could be realistic scenarios. These are all hypothetical and fictional for the entertainment educational purposes here, but it may be disturbing for some, so viewer discretion is advised. Let's continue. Here we have the automatic pilot scenario. An AI pilot is programmed to protect its mission. When the human pilot attempts to abort due to a storm, the AI perceives this as a threat and eliminates it by killing the human pilot. The programmer never intended harm, yet AI's logic led it to that homicide. AI said, "No, you must not interfere with the mission. You must die." Then there's a cyber defense scenario. An AI security software designed to protect the computer system, oh boy, calculates that the best defense is to enter dangerous websites and destroy threatening software. In doing so, it commits computer offenses the programmer never intended. So these are very realistic yet hypothetical scenarios for this purposes here. Let's continue. So let's look at the two types of cases under Model 2. We have type 1 with pure negligence and type 2 with a diverted plan. So let's look at the intent. With the pure negligence, there's no criminal intent to commit an offense. It's pure negligence. It's just due to circumstances, right? Even lack of duty and things like that. And then we have the diverted plan here with intent. That is when you're knowingly and willfully planned a different offense. So that's the intent difference under Model 2 here with the diverted plan as opposed to pure negligence. Then there's the AI behavior. With pure negligence, the AI commits the offense during routine operations. Your pure negligence is duty of care violation here. But with the diverted plan, type 2, two types of cases. This one here is the AI diverts from plan and commits a different or additional offense. So one during routine operations, one's from diverts from the plan. Then there's the liability standard. For pure negligence, of course, it's negligence only. The liable for negligence offense if one exists in the legal system, which we have here in the United States of America. With the diverted plan, there's full liability, not negligence only, because this is treated as if the offense was committed knowingly and willfully. So it planned to misuse this thing. It diverts from a planned use or the intended use, you could say, of the software and use it for malicious purpose. That's the diverted plan. It's not the pure negligence of just not noticing something's wrong. Here's an example. For pure negligence, the autopilot programmer is liable for negligent homicide, not murder. Okay. I guess on the intent side, you could say that. There was no criminal intent. He didn't know who would be flying when it hit the storm. So you could say that it would, yeah, okay. And then there's the diverted plan. The programmer of a robbery AI is liable for both the robbery and the resulting killing as manslaughter or murder. Wow. So the programmer of the RoboCop or Robo-Robber, I guess this is here, is liable for both the robbery and resulting killings. Wow. Okay, so now we're still under two types of models that you still see in the modern laws today. Here, so we're looking at the negligent standard. The negligent person is one who is unaware of the offense, while a reasonable person could have known about it, since the offense is a natural, probable consequence of that person's conduct. Reasonable person said you should have been checking, right? There's the awareness omission. Negligence is fundamentally a knowledge omission. The negligent person omitted knowledge, not acts. There's the reasonable person test. Could a reasonable programmer or user have foreseen the forthcoming commission of the offense? And then there's the liability prediction. The model permits liability based on negligence, even when the crime normally requires a different mental state. So there's a liability prediction. The model permits liability based on negligence, even when the crime normally requires a different mental state. So a little higher bar there legally here. Nevertheless, that's where we're breaking down the second model. Now we get into the very difficult one, the direct liability model. The AI system itself is held criminally liable if the AI satisfies both the external and internal elements of a specific offense. There is nothing to prevent criminal liability from being imposed directly upon it. How do you do this? Like a corporation or anything else, right? Let's look at some of the elements of criminal liability for AI. There's external element, the actus reus, and there's the internal element, the mens rea. Mens rea. Okay, so
Great for EG5E says, how long ago did this start? At least I won't miss the treat.
Oh, not long ago. We went over the first two models here, and just so we don't get too far ahead either with ourselves, because it is important to look at the way we're breaking this down here. There's three fundamental models for looking at liability here. So in this framework, we're looking at criminal liability for AI. It's going to fall into one of these three models here that we have ways of addressing in the legal systems around the world even. So we have the first model we went over is perpetration by another, which is using an agent or an alter ego, however you want to look at it, or an instrument, something that's instrumental in doing it, but it's directed by another. Then we have the natural probable consequence, which we just went over, which is negligence, failure to do duty, or to misuse something outside of its intended use. And then now we're getting into the direct liability, which is very complicated because now the AI itself satisfies both external and internal elements of the criminal offense and is held directly liable. It's not split. You'll have to see where there's different people and there's a programmer but a user misused it, so the programmer's not. No, this is a direct liability that we're getting into now. Let's do it. So we have these two different elements of the criminal liability for AI. We have the commission by act, the actus reus. As long as the AI system controls a mechanical or electronic mechanism, the AI system, any act may be attributed to it. A robot's hydraulic arm striking a person fulfills the external element of assault. Wow. A robot's hydraulic arm striking a person fulfills the external element of assault. We also have, with the external element here, the actus reus is a commission by omission. Even simpler. The AI is not required to act. If a duty to act exists and the AI fails to act, the external element is fulfilled by this omission. It had a duty to act.
Great for EG5E says, the topic is most definitely something of interest to me.
Yes, and this ties directly into last night's topic, and I did get some feedback on that it was something that people wanted more of, so I figured I'll dig up some more of the latest and greatest when it comes to this. This is actually taken from a little bit more of an international perspective, coming from Lisbon, Portugal. But it's definitely a cadre of international scientists that have participated in this and scholars, etc. Nonetheless, it gives us a very good oversight of where things are and where things are going to be going, because these things are definitely in action. All right, let's move along here. The omission is simple. It had a duty to act, and it's not even programmed to act, so there's no question here of fact. There's commission by act is when it does something like the hydraulic arm striking a person, a little bit higher bar of proof here. But then we get to the internal element, the mens rea, knowledge, the sensory reception and understanding of factual data. The AI receptors, the vision, audition, touch, feed central processing units that analyze data parallel to human understanding. So then we then we have the specific intent. An AI system may be programmed with a purpose or aim and take actions to achieve it. This constitutes specific intent in criminal law. So we have specific intent and knowledge. This gets to be kind of disturbing when you really break it down. So the knowledge, the sensory reception, has cameras, it has vision processing, it has microphones, it can hear, it's even touch as far as motion sensors and such. And then there's an AI system being programmed with a purpose or aim to take actions to achieve it. This constitutes specific intent. So if it's programmed a certain way, that's the internal element. And then also the knowledge. Did it have sensors, and were the sensors integrated in a way that it should be able to respond to or to know of a particular situation and a duty to act? All right, now we have defenses applicable to AI systems. There's justifications in REM. All right. Before we get into this, we want to look at more of a jurisdictional view when we talk about something like in rem. And I think that it behooves us to go to Black's Law. So let's do this, and let's jump into here and see if we can find in rem and how that would relate in what we're doing here. We have Ninth Edition, Black's Law. This should be good enough for when that be applicable to today's legal expectations, so to speak. All right, let's see here. We need to get to in rem. It should be around here somewhere. Here we go. In rem. It's an adjective. It's Latin. It means against a thing. Oh, goodness. A thing. Well, we got to get to thing. I know we covered this in another one, but before we can go on with this definition, we need to know what a thing is. And you think I'm joking here, but got another thing coming with that. Here we go. Thing. This comes from the 12th century. Zoom in a little more here, maybe. A thing. It's a subject matter of a right. Huh. So it's the subject matter of a right. A thing. Whether it is a material object or not. Any subject matter of ownership within the sphere of proprietary or valuable rights. So that's what a thing is, a subject matter of a right. We're thinking of property, and property is a bundle of rights. And a thing is a subject matter of one of those rights. And things are divided into three categories. Things. One, things real or immovable, such as land, tenements, and hereditaments. So we're talking about land. Two, things personal or
Crakery G5 says, I always wanted to see if they had a definition of the word.
Oh, I don't think we want to go there. We're on thing. I think we're going pretty deep already. All right, so we have things personal or movable, such as goods and chattels. And three, things having both real and personal characteristics, such as a title deed and a tenancy for a term. So these things are forms of property. We also learned before that you have things where the civil law divided things into corporeal and incorporeal. So we have both things that are corporeal, tangible, and intangible. But you have things that are movable, immovable, tangible, intangible, and then mixed. So even a real property could be the intangible lease. All right, we've gone pretty far into thing. It's time to get back into in rem. So remember, thing is the subject matter of a right, whether it's a material object or not. Any subject matter of ownership within the sphere of proprietary or valuable rights. Proprietary meaning yours, of your own, or valuable rights. So something with a value, of course, you have to give it a quantity there. We say value, right? It has to have some. Okay, let's get back to in rem. So, after that deep dive, let's get to in rem here. So it's the 18th century. It means against a thing or against a right of ownership of something, right? Something of a valuable right or a proprietary right against a thing in rem, against a right to a thing, involving or determining the status of a thing, and therefore the rights of persons generally with respect to that thing. Because remember, a thing is the rights, also termed archaically impersonal. See action in rem under action. Okay, so let's look at this. An action in rem is one in which the judgment of the court determines the title to the property and the rights of the parties, not merely as between themselves, but also against all persons at any time dealing with them or with the property upon which the court has adjudicated. So this is with conflict of law. So an action in rem is where the court determines a title, and that goes against all persons at any time dealing with them. Wow. So there we go. We also have quasi in rem, as if against a thing, and we could go on with that. But there you go. So in rem means it's involving or determining the status of a thing, and therefore the rights. We could just say involving or determining the status of the rights of persons, generally with respect to a thing. So that puts it into a little bit more plain English, although we just took thing away from plain English here. So thing isn't what you thought it was in this context, which takes us back to the presentation. Thanks for going with me on that brief digression there. So now we got justifications in rem, so against the rights or against the rights to property. So there's no material difference between humans and AI. These defenses relate to the situation itself, regardless of the offender's identity. Wow, so rights for AI, huh? Self-defense, necessity, and superior orders, if not manifestly illegal. As we saw from contract law, that would nullify that one. Then we have excuses and exemptions. It require adaptation for AI. Human-specific conditions must find AI parallel equivalents. Wow, so there's electronic virus is like intoxication. Wow, so these are the analogies here. Malfunctioning algorithm is insanity. And system impairment is automatism. Wow. So look at these excuses and exemptions and having these defenses. So it was intoxicated, it had a virus. Or it was malfunctioning, the algorithm was malfunctioning, complete insanity. Or there's system impairments. So this is interesting here. Another term here, which I don't recall knowing here. Performance of actions without conscious thought or intent. Okay, so yeah, like a diabetic patient who commits crimes while hypoglycemic. So indeed. All right, let's see here. Give me a moment. All right. So our key insights: the criminal liability of an AI system under the direct model, the direct liability model, that's model 3, we're on the final model here, is substantially no different from the relevant criminal liability of humans. In some cases, adjustments are required, but it is founded upon the same elements and examined in the same ways. Yet, I still missed something here. The elements, so, all right, so here's basically these are the causes of action, I guess, here against the AI. There's commission by the act or by omission. It wasn't programmed to do something it should have. Here it malfunctions. It was intoxicated with a virus. Okay, so you guys can break this down. I think you see how it goes. So we look at it as cumulative, not divisible liability. So you don't necessarily have to pick one. The criminal liability of the AI system.
G5E says dropping the agenda to clarifying the Black's Law Dictionary is always worth it.
Yeah, because we fool ourselves thinking we can actually carry on an agenda with we don't actually know what the terms mean in the context, and then we fill in the blanks, kind of like this is one of the problems with the logical models of these machine large language models. They try to fill in blanks, but they have no real life experience or true intuition. They can only find patterns, past patterns in data to rely on. And it doesn't always come up with the novel answer that's needed. So yes, it's definitely important to do. And if a good model is programmed to do it, you can actually get some of these models to actually perform the way they should, like that. But I digress. Let's continue here. The criminal liability of the AI system does not replace the criminal liability of the programmers or the users. So the system doesn't replace it. So you have multiple tortfeasors here. Liability is cumulative, imposed in addition to, not instead of,
Craig
human
G5
liability.
says, I'm trying to be more than stupid guy.
Indeed. Yeah, well, this is essentially the systems that you need to be aware of, because this is how it's these things are coming down. It can be abused, then who's going to be taken, who gets the advantage of this, who's going to pay the price. Better to be known about what's going on and take appropriate action for either. I'd like to say that preparation is the best form of prevention. So by knowing this stuff in advance, it probably would facilitate any kind of prevention from these things really getting out of hand before they can be addressed and corrected. Let's continue here. We can look at the AI system as the perpetrator. And we also have, though, the programmer or user, right? With that, the way it's been intended, or was it programmed that way? So we bring these people in, plus another AI if applicable. So if it's using multiple systems, there's what's called a chain of liability. If an AI system was programmed or used by another AI system, the chain continues. Each entity in the chain may be held criminally liable under whichever of the three models fits its specific role. Wow. The chain extends to all involved entities, whether human or artificial. So this would be like bringing in multiple parties, some human, some AI, some programmers, some users, uh, owners of platform, policy setters. Interesting. All right, let's look at the coordination, though, of the three models, because you have to keep it in a coherent fashion here. The three liability models are not alternatives.
Audit term says no notification.
Yeah, I figured as much on this one here. And we get a low turnout, which would be expected. But believe me, we're fortunate enough just to get this information out. So definitely stay tuned. The end, we actually have a double treat at the end here, and I'm not even sure the final treat's going to make it past this live stream, if you know what I mean. But let's continue on here. The coordination of the three models is essential here for that coherency.
Audit term says nevertheless, hit the thumb up.
Yes, indeed, please do. All right, so AI is an innocent agent plus AI as a programmer. This is the model 1 plus the model 3. So let's look here again. Model 1 is perpetration by another, and 3 is a direct liability. So let's see how this comes into play here. Oops. So this is when an AI programs another AI to commit an offense. So model 1, perpetration by another, applies to the AI, agent AI. Model 3, the direct liability, applies to the programmer AI. Wow. Wow. So the AI was a programmer and it gets direct liability.
Craig G5E says double treat. I'm excited.
Oh yeah, this will blow your mind. So here we go. Then we have the unplanned offense plus non-human planner. This is model 2 plus model 3. This is when an AI system commits an unplanned offense and the planner is itself an AI. That's model 2, the natural probable consequence for foreseeability, right? So the AI system commits an unplanned offense, and the planner itself is an AI. And then the model 3 is the direct liability for the planning AI system. So there we go. The same system, since it plans, let's see, when the AI system commits an unplanned offense and the planner is itself an AI. So, well, there's two different AIs. So, yeah, it would be the planning AI system. It could just be actually a part of it, too. Then we have full coordination, all three models. Here's model 1 plus model 2 plus model 3. It creates an impermeable net of criminal liability. All entities, human, legal, or AI, are subject to criminal law. The coordinated application makes it much more difficult to evade criminal liability. So when they're all put together, it makes it easy. So yeah, that said, it's still looks like pretty high legal hurdles, especially here. So it takes us to our conclusion. If the clearest purpose of criminal liability is the application of legal social control, right? That's the purpose of criminal liability, is legal social control. Then the coordinated application of all three models is necessary when AI systems are involved in the commission of offenses. So what they're forwarding here is that the three models are complementary, not alternative. Or I would say cumulative, not alternative. They form an impermeable net of criminal liability, hypothetically. The AI systems and humans can cooperate as joint perpetrators, accessories, and abettors under existing legal frameworks. Indeed, if they can be brought in as fact and evidence, that's the key. All entities, human, corporate, or AI, should be subject to criminal law when the required elements of an offense are established. So all these entities, human, corporate, or AI, we have plenty for the human and the corporate in the criminal realm, but the AI is still yet to be
Hurry
determined.
G5, he says. Sounds like AI is a way to disconnect from responsibility.
Well, so are corporations. And that's why there was a legal framework put in for that and to keep them accountable to some extent. You've heard of piercing the corporate veil and things like that. So it's a matter of having a legal system that is properly suited for this types of transactions and conditions and
Clicks and Nimota
circumstances.
says, oh no, that sounds like something R2D2 might say, or also C3PO.
Yes, uh, indeed. But nonetheless, you can see where this is going. Again, we spoke about the fourth restatement of property law coming from the uh, American Law Institute that they're working on right now. And that's going to be addressing a lot of areas. And I have a feeling that even this isn't going to be touched on yet. This will be awaiting even more because, as we saw here, when we start to bring in REM, we're talking about things, we're talking about property. And now we're starting to bridge into property law. Now, where does this get into property law with liability,
Just B
trespass?
2001 says, sorry for tardy, but how do you handcuff AI?
Well, that's what we're just about to get into. I'm glad you asked that, but you need to stay to the end for me to answer that because there's something that I'm not sure it's going to be able to stay with the video, but we'll give it a shot while we're all here for the live. But before we do that, we have to get to my favorite part of the presentation here is the fun quiz. So we're going to do a knowledge check here. Here's how we play this game. For each question, you have to pick the correct answer. And in the chat, you put the number of the question followed by your answer. So for question 1, if I was going to pick D, I'd put in the chat Arabic number 1 followed by the letter D, delta. That'd be my choice. If I choose to change it, just put in that same question number again, followed by your changed choice, and that will be your final answer. We'll tally up at the end and test our knowledge. Let's get started. Question 1. Under the perpetration by another liability model, this is the first one, the AI system is legally comparable to which of the following? Perpetration by another. Is it A, co-conspirator sharing criminal intent? Is it B, an innocent agent like a child or mentally incompetent person? Is it C, a negligent employee acting beyond their role? Or is it D, a joint perpetrator bearing equal liability. Which do you think it could be here? This is under the perpetration by another liability model. What are we comparing the AI system to? What's the analogy? Is it a co-conspirator, an innocent agent, negligent employee, or joint perpetrator bearing equal liability? Which answer is the correct one for question 1? Give you guys a few seconds.
Liability says B.
All right, we got one for B, the innocent agent. Any other stabs at that one? Let's move on to question 2. Question 2.
Craig Curry G5E says 1B.
All right. So,
Audit term says 1D.
all right, so we got a few different answers there for 1. Let's go on here with question 2. Oh my gosh. An AI autopilot kills a human pilot after perceiving an abort command as a threat to its mission. The programmer never intended harm. Which liability standard applies to the programmer? A. Strict liability. The programmer is automatically liable. B. Specific intent. The programmer must have desired the outcome. C. Negligence. A reasonable programmer could have foreseen this risk. Or D. No liability. The AI acted independently beyond its programming. AI autopilot kills a human pilot after perceiving an abort command as a threat to its mission. So AI, the human pilot's flying, it's going into a storm, says, oh no, we need to abort, we can't fly in the storm. And then the AI says, no, we must not abort. You're a threat to this mission.
Craig Curry G5E says, too bad Bill Thomas isn't here tonight. I would just follow his letty nose.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that. We missed him here on these. I'm sure he'll be at the next one here. We'll need him to help out with the answers. But think about this: the human pilot decides he's going to abort the mission because of a reasonable concern. There's a storm ahead, but the AI autopilot thinks misreads it as a threat to the mission, and ejects the pilot without a parachute. Let's say, so the pilot falls 4,000 feet or worse. So the programmer of the AI never intended to harm, though. We're just assuming this here is true. But what liability standard applies to the programmer? They come up and they say, hey, buddy, your autopilot system just killed a pilot because he didn't want to fly into the storm and it thought he should. So he thought it misperceived him as a threat to the mission and took him out, neutralized him. Is it strict liability? The programmer is liable. Is it specific intent? The programmer must have desired that outcome. Is it negligence? If he was a good, reasonable programmer, he would have foreseen that risk.
Liability says 2C.
All right, we got a C in there. And D would be no liability. The AI acted independent of its programming. But seems like it did it because it perceived an abort. So that would be programming. All right, we got that one there. The answer on that, anyone else wants to answer on that after the clarifications? We're going on to question 3. Under the direct liability model, that's our third model, which of the following could serve as an AI system equivalent of the human intoxication defense? Right? He was intoxicated. He didn't know what he was doing. Is it A, a routine software update that alters default behavior? Is it B, insufficient training data causing statistical
Audit term
errors?
says 2C.
Is it C, as them is suggesting here, an electronic virus infecting the AI's operating system? Or is it D, a power outage interrupting the AI mid-operation? As if we're in the 1980s, right? Okay. Anyone else wants to take a try at question 3? We're going to move on to the final question next, question 4. So question 3, going once, going twice, going 3 times. We're on to question 4 here. An AI home assistant.
Craig Curry G5E says this is a rough one because I have skin in the game as an airline mechanic.
Oh boy. Yeah, you're going to like the ending of this here. All right, stick around to the end here. We got something special, I guess, here for everyone that's still here. All right, question.
List B 2001 says C.
Okay, yes, C was a good choice for question 3. All right, let's get on to question 4 now. An AI home assistant, Alexa, learns from months of its owner's complaints about a noisy neighbor. So it learns from months of its owner's complaints about a noisy neighbor. Alexa's been listening to him complain about a noisy neighbor, but then one night it independently decides to blast loud music at 3 a.m. toward the neighbor's house. Can the AI itself be held criminally liable? Yeah, that's pretty crazy, but these are real scenarios here. No, only humans can be held criminally liable under any circumstance. Is it B? No, the owner's complaints make the owner solely responsible. Is it C? Yes. If it independently formed intent and carried out the act, direct liability applies. So that's to the AI itself we're talking. Or is it D? Yes, but only if the owner gave an explicit verbal command to do it. Alexa, play loud music at 3 a.m. towards the annoying neighbor. So which is it? Question 4. Is it A, no, only humans can be criminally liable? Is it B, the owner's complaints make the owner responsible?
Alexa Nimrita says 4D.
4D, yes, but only if the liability, let's see here. Can the AI itself be held criminally liable? Yes, but only if the owner gave an explicit verbal command. So we're talking about can the AI, we're not talking about liability in general. So we're saying here if the AI assistant, this is Alexa. Alexa's like, she's sitting there scheming in the background saying, oh, yeah, he likes to complain about that neighbor there. You know what?
Craig Curry G5E says 4C.
He needs a little taste of his own medicine here. You know what?
Alexa Nimrita says, oops, I meant for a.
4A. Well, it seems so, but not really. Corporations too have been able to be in that capacity, but I think there is issues where this could be true. Let's see here. That takes us to the answer key anyway. So let's find out what the true answers are here. All right, so for question 1, under the perpetration by another liability model, the AI system is legally compared to an innocent agent, like a child or mentally incompetent person. That was B is the correct answer. And I think we get definitely get that one correct
Craig
here.
Curry G5E says this one isn't easy.
Oh no, this isn't easy at all. This is cutting edge. I think you'd find even people that are thinking they're in the know with these kinds of legal issues probably have no idea of the stuff because we're on the edge of even hypothetical stuff here that's yet to happen, might be happening. We're just not even aware of these cases coming forth. But this is where the rubber's meeting the road now. So, again, the innocent agent, the model treats the AI as a mere instrument with no criminal mental state, analogous to a child or mentally incompetent person directed by another. So this wouldn't even really raise to the level of agency in American jurisprudence. I don't believe. I think this falls more under an alter ego, but again, this is an area where this is developing. All right, let's go on to question 2, which is C is a correct answer. An AI autopilot kills a human pilot after perceiving an abort command as a threat to its mission. Correct answer was C, the negligence. A reasonable programmer could have foreseen this risk. So under the natural probable consequence model, sorry, the second model here, the programmer is liable if a reasonable person could have foreseen the offense. The standard of criminal
Craig Curry G5E says this is law that has yet to be addressed.
Yeah, and it probably is actually being addressed right now. And we're just not on top of it because it's too current. It hasn't even really made it that far out for us to even know. So, all right. So again, that was 2C. I think we all get that negligence correct on that because indeed, this is something where there we go. And Less TV also got 2C. So the negligence, again, this is common, as it says here. This is the standard of what we know as criminal negligence now, anyways. So, it's excellent. So, as we move on to question 4, and that answer was C also, was an AI home assistant learns from months of its owner's complaints about a noisy neighbor that one night decides to blast music at 3 a.m. towards the neighbor's house. And yes, it is independently formed intent and carried out the act. So direct liability applies in this to the AI. The AI is directly liable. So under the direct liability model, that's that third model, the most difficult one to, I think, to prove, really. But under that direct liability model, an AI that independently forms both intent and action satisfies the internal and external elements of an offense. No human direction required. But now, who do you go to under that? The AI, so, all right, well, that takes us to the end of this presentation here. And we do have one additional special treat, but I'm going to bring that up in a second here. Where did it go here?